Hi, welcome back to the Remember to Live podcast. It's me, Corrine. And this week we have a very special solo episode. There's something profound about standing in the places that shaped you. Recently, I went home to my hometown, which I rarely ever go to and haven't been for many, many years. And what I discovered about presence and time and healing really surprised me. See, this was a really quick trip. I went in on Saturday morning, came back on Sunday evening. The reason I went home is because one of my oldest friends was celebrating the life of her father. And it's just one of those moments in life where I knew I had to be there. But I also knew that because I hadn't been home in a long time, I probably needed to just revisit the soil that I was planted in. I'm discovering that sometimes life's most important lessons happen when we're called home to our roots, when we come home to ourselves, whether literally, metaphorically, spiritually. There's something about coming home. And you see, when you leave someplace and you've been gone for 20 years and you come back, you start to see that there's a lot of things that have changed. Some things are brand new, but there's also a lot of things that haven't changed at all. There are even some things that were starting to disappear. I decided to revisit some of the places that shaped me. My old schools, where I grew up, my first apartment, my college, retracing some of the most significant moments in my life. There's something about seeing a place you spent so much time in, like my middle school. It's empty. It's kind of fallen apart. And you think about how much life used to occupy that building, how we thought our days were so important, all the changes we go through at that age and how significant they shape our lives. And then you ride around town and you see new shiny buildings that have replaced some of the old buildings. You start to see how these physical changes in the environment start to mirror our own personal transformations. It makes me think about how we can either resist or embrace change in our own lives. There's some parts of us that will hold on to something for so long, even if it's fallen apart, even if it no longer serves us, even if it's damaged, and we just can't let go. And sometimes maybe we're replacing things way too quickly, replacing it with the first shiny object that we see. But most of the time, we're kind of just afraid to change. And sometimes we have to go to completely new environments to get the change that we need. And then sometimes we have to revisit old environments to reflect on how far we've come, take a moment and be in it to really know where we want to go. This trip also had me really thinking about the emotional landscape of time. We talk a lot about time, especially when we are busy adults, and really about not having enough time, right? Our days are so busy. We can't find time for the things that we need. We can't find time for the things that we want to do. But I'm realizing time moves both slowly and very, very fast. You see, because I'm at the age where a lot of my friends are becoming grandparents, but I feel like we just got out of high school. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially when I'm visiting the friends that I went to high school with and I'm back in my hometown, and it seems like these memories just happened yesterday, but yet our babies are having babies. And we're like, where did the time go? How did 20 years go by in a blink of an eye? And if those 20 years went by that quick, how quickly are the next 20 years going to go by? And it really makes you start to think about how you're living your life. Are you showing up to it? Are you being in the moments that matter? And this is why I think being present is so important. Learning to be present in the moment, learning to recognize where you are, learning to find the gifts in it, learning to appreciate it. Because we just don't know how many days we have. And we just don't know how many days left we have with each other. And I think the moment that really made me sit in this on this trip home was when I went to visit my dad's grave. And I'm sitting there as a mother of grown children who never got to meet their grandfather. My father passed when I was only 9 years old. He never got to see me grow up. He never got to see me achieve all of the things that I've achieved. He never got to be there for all these moments that have passed. So as I sat there grounding with my father and just putting my hands on the earth and being present in that moment and just feeling the gratitude that I had to be alive and just sharing with him how amazing his grandchildren are and how much I wish he could have been there for all of those moments, made me want to really, really, really show up to the moments that I have. And it made me realize our roots are like a garden we moved away from. And some of us have never moved away, right? Some of us stay where we were planted, but many of us move to different places, experience different parts of life. But as we get older, we realize that even if we stayed in the garden, some plants have died, others have grown wild, new ones have been planted, but the soil, the fundamental earth that our seeds were planted in, that soil that we sprouted from, soil that first nourished us, still has so many lessons in it if we're just willing to dig. So if you've been feeling a bit lost in life lately or a bit stuck, because we all have those moments when we're not sure what to do next, we might be in transition, or we may just be ready for something new, but we're not sure which path to take. Sometimes we just need to go home, whether physically or metaphorically or spiritually. Sometimes we just need to go home to measure our growth, to get clear on where we are, and to get clear on where we're going. And getting present in that, getting present with ourselves, it can help to not only accelerate our understanding, but it also can facilitate our healing. And it also helps us embrace the fact that life is always changing, but there's that thread that stays the same, that thread that keeps us connected, that thread that keeps us tethered to who we are at our core. And sometimes we just need to go home to find our thread. And sometimes we have this idea that like going backwards and revisiting our past and going home is a negative thing. But we can use it to fuel our growth. We can use it to remind us who we really are. We can use it to remember who we were before the world put all of the shoulds and supposed tos and have tos on top of us, before we woke up to this life that mostly was prescribed to us, and remember the things that brought us joy. And since this is the Remember to Live podcast, and the goal is for us to remember to be present in our lives right now, to eliminate this epidemic of end-of-life regrets and start living fully in the present moment, here are a few ways how you can use this theme of returning home, coming home to yourself, as a way for you to get more fully present in your life right now. Schedule some time to visit a meaningful place from your past. It may not be the exact place that you grew up in, but there are those places and those moments that shaped us. And sometimes just retracing our steps will help us remember who we are and help us show up more to life. Practice presence in those places that hold memories. Like, be there. Notice how you feel in your body and in your heart and in your mind. And what messages does it have for you now in this time and place? Grab a journal and spend some time thinking about how your relationship to home has evolved. Who have you grown to be? How have your beliefs changed? Who are you now? And how did all those past experiences shape you, prepare you to be the person that you are now? And just take a moment to really sit with what coming home to yourself means in your life, because the relationship with yourself is the most important relationship you will ever have. And your life is filled with moments and memories that hold little gifts if you just get still enough and get present enough to receive them. We spend so much time rushing around, letting time pass us by, never pausing to reflect. I invite you to reflect on your life in a deep way. Reconnect with some old friends, with people who were there when your seeds were just starting to sprout. Don't keep putting it off for someday, because we never know when someday will come. And if we get that someday at all, life is too short. Slow down. We don't need to live it on 2x speed. So I'll leave you with this final exercise. Find a quiet place. If you're driving, just pause. Come back to this moment in the podcast. Find a quiet space and complete these sentences. The place that shaped me most is. The biggest change I notice in myself is. What remains unchanged is. And what I wish I could tell my younger self about this place is. I'm still processing a lot from this trip home, and I wanted to just take a moment and come on here with y'all and give you some tools to reflect, to find your own homecoming, and to remember to live.